Hello, and welcome back to the Friday Feels episode of the U Up Podcast. I'm Jordana Abraham.
And I am Jared Fried. It is so good to be back here with you, Jordana. How are you? What's going on?
I'm great. I'm excited to be mixing it up this Friday.
We are talking about the movie, My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yes.
It is let's go over the details. The movie was made in
1997. It was released.
1997.
So 28 years ago.
28 years ago.
So we'll give you some, again, if you haven't seen the movie, you should probably watch it before you listen to this episode. But just as a quick little refresher, the movie stars Julia Roberts, Dermot Mulroney, Cameron Diaz, and Rupert Everett as the stars. Came out in 1997. And the concept is basically Julia Roberts as her best friend since college. They dated for a month in college, Dermot Mulroney. She breaks up with him. They're best friends. And then he tells her he's getting married. And she suddenly decides she wants to be with him. And she goes to the wedding to try to break them up.
That is the premise.
Yes.
That my best friend is getting married. I can't have this happen.
Yes.
And it's kind of playing off of the idea that it's hard to be anyone's best friend when they're getting married.
Or even when they're in a serious relationship. But
right.
Yes,
but it's playing, I think a lot of this, it's interesting to watch. Do you think it aged well?
I think there's certain parts of it that feel like timeless. And other parts, it's funny to watch this back now. And this came out when I was 8 years old. Obviously, I don't think I saw it when I was 8. But definitely seeing it much younger. It's so funny to watch it now. And you're they're talking about getting married to each other if they don't find anyone else to marry by 28.
Right.
And they're 27 years old in this movie, which is crazy.
It's crazy. And
Cameron Diaz is 20.
Right. And this is all crazy, but also something that's consistent is 28, 29, 30. That is the prime people get married age.
Right.
Even so, but it is not the age of we need to have a pact and make sure that we're married.
That's more of a mid-30s, I would say now. Would be where your pact would come in.
Right. So it is funny that the age of a marriage happening, not weird, with Julia and what's his name in the movie?
Michael.
And Michael.
Julianne and Michael.
Julianne and Michael. That's not weird. They are of age of young people getting married.
Yes.
The weirdness is Cameron Diaz being 20 and
still in college.
Still in college. It feels like a shoehorn plot point. Her being.
What does that mean? A shoehorn plot?
It feels like they didn't have to do it this way. Right. It could have been.
She could have been 23.
Right. She could have been 2 years out of college, has a very rich dad, and is in her career and is trying to figure out her career early on. They made it so her big choice is whether to stay in college at all.
Right.
To get married and follow him on the road to be a sports writer. That was bizarre and not necessary.
Right.
Almost.
There was no reason she would have needed to drop out of school to be married to him.
That's where this movie, where I thought it was very interesting, where it aged well, where it aged badly, is the old school nature of this movie, because it opens up, if you watch it opens up with this singing part.
It's actually pretty cute.
It's very cute. It's very it's a little odd. It's a little
wacky in that 90s movie way.
It's wacky. It's also I think in the 90s we all thought we were progressive and we've come a long way, which every generation you have. But then you have this so I don't know if this was this song and dance routine with people who aren't even in the movie.
Right.
It's just a woman in a wedding dress and her 3 bridesmaids who are in service to her. So this whole song and dance.
They're singing the song.
They're singing the song, but then they're on their knee to her, the bride. I don't know if there was meant to be the symbolism that I took from it, but it was the bride's in charge. These 3 women work for her. This is the old school.
For sure. It's
of
very,
marriage.
Yeah, it does feel 90s.
Very old,
90s meets again, a 90s kind of wave of feminism.
Right. It was it was
Julia
acknowledging that wedding. It was acknowledging, Julia Roberts, who's this
is your 90s feminist
working chick.
Yeah.
And these are the women representing the 1950s version of marriage that we still kind of abide by.
Right.
Because that opening scene, I was watching that. What did you think of that music and?
I don't know.
The hairdos, it was very 50s.
Catchy.
And
yeah, I don't know. I thought it was just like a fun throwback to like a different kind of rom-com, like that doesn't really exist anymore.
You're talking about the song and dance.
Yeah, the song
and dance.
And kind of like all of it. I love this movie. I feel like I don't want to sound like one of those people, but I don't feel like they make movies like this anymore. Like I don't know if it's like me having some weird nostalgic thing where I think it's better, but I just don't feel like I've seen a movie as
this is my question
and like astute, but like still fun.
Well, this was my question that I was thinking about throughout the movie. Is it possible to make a fun and believable rom-com that had the energy of this movie, considering how much cell phones are a part of dating? Mm-hmm. Because the cell phone is in this movie. The cell phone is huge and is used
physically.
It's physically big. It is, but it's almost used as a crutch for the storytelling. Mm-hmm. Like they use it for her to like call George. They use it for her to like, they use it to its benefit, the cell phone. Because suddenly they have one. Like suddenly a cell phone appears and makes the storytelling a lot easier.
In which parts?
Just her getting a call to her voicemail,
right,
from Michael. In the beginning of the movie, I got to go to my phone because there's a voicemail from this guy that I had this former relationship with, my best friend of so-and-so years. He's been saying he's been calling for a month, yet she has a cell phone in her purse.
Right.
So it's funny that like the cell phone, and I was wondering, I was like, have we gotten to a point with the cell phone that you couldn't really do a movie about modern dating because so much of it happens hunched over your phone? Well,
they try to do like the text bubbles and all that stuff. And like, I think it can be done. I don't know why. Maybe it's because like there's so much easier maybe to make a movie that there's so much crap out there. I don't know what it is, but I saw it and I was like, I feel like I haven't seen a movie this good and entertaining in
It's very good. It's I thought it was way more relatable considering it was made in 1997 to today. Like
did you feel like although they were like 27, they felt older? Like she felt like Julia Roberts could have been like, she felt like a 35.
Right. Well, I think that goes back to when would you be experiencing these insecurities?
Right.
So either I think I'm younger than I am, or these people are playing parts that would have been played older than they were then.
Yes.
Because, and to go back to like people in the movie, they all like, one thing I just have to acknowledge, how great they all look. Like everyone is like picture perfect. George and Michael, they both are like clean and like angular. And then you look at Julia Roberts is like the cool 90s chick who, I mean, her in the crop.
She's got the crazy hair.
The crazy hair that you're supposed to go, she's like, doesn't care at all. But everything's perfection. She's in that crop button up that she's running in. Yeah. And I'm like,
hot.
Her body's insane.
But like casually.
Casually. And then Cameron Diaz, I mean, she's like, you can't take your eyes off her. And the way they pit Cameron Diaz against Julia Roberts, and Cameron Diaz, who I wouldn't think of this like, snooty, waspy looking person, they make her look that waspy part in like kind of like the skirts and with the headbands
but it's so accurate, even like the way they describe her. I feel like it's very true to her character, is like just like non-pretentious and like cute and endearing and like you know what I mean, like almost like it made sense why she'd be like so annoying to the other character, because she's not like, she's like gorgeous and rich but gives off an air of like almost like deferring to everyone else around her. Yeah,
she is likable. But it was kind of, it was transparent what they were trying to do. How well they did it was so amazing. Because I do think when you deal with like, I think a lot of women tend to like put themselves in a box.
In the character,
In the character. Like, I think men do that, but like way less outwardly. We don't like say it. Like, I think a lot of women tell their own stories. Like a lot of times, like they get, we see it on this podcast all the time where people write in and they say, I've never had a serious relationship. Like they say that about themselves. That is them telling their own storyline.
Right.
And when you have Julia Roberts, who's set up as this, I am sarcastic. I
don't do
hate,
that mushy love stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't talk about my feelings. I get uncomfortable. He even says it. You always get uncomfortable when you talk about your feelings. Is this you doing your old thing that you always do?
Right.
There's a brand of woman who's like, that's me. And then there's the Cameron Diaz part where there's a brand of woman who's like, that's me, lovey-dovey. I'm the one that's making sure everyone's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I like to look prim and proper. I want a classic wedding.
Yes.
You know, like I want the flowers to be
It was
great.
so funny when she's like, I used to be like you, thinking I was above all the love, the mushy love stuff. It's like, you're 20 years old.
Right.
When did you used to be like that? Like last summer at 18?
Right. What life experience have you had?
Right.
That was interesting. Yeah, that to me, if we were like gonna like have the holes in the movie, her being 20, it wasn't necessary.
Right.
Her dropping out of college, not necessary. You could have had her be 25, but I do think they did this, and it's like kind of like a
the lowly sports writer.
right. Yeah. Well, he wasn't even so lowly. Like he was like. I just think it was a little bit condescending of like, oh, well, women will be angry at her because she's 20. Like,
right. But also like you're meant to like her, I think, too, right?
I think towards
But you're still, I don't know, who are you supposed to be rooting for? I mean,
so,
Julia Roberts to her is very like self-deprecating. Like the whole time while she's acting like a lunatic, she acknowledges that she's acting like a lunatic.
That's the smartest thing they did in this movie.
Yeah.
Is there's so many parts. Well, there's a big speech with her and George. And it comes like a third of the way into the movie when because in the beginning of the movie, I don't know about you. Did you think I thought it kind of happened quickly.
What, that just she's thrown into the wedding?
You're thrown into the wedding.
Right.
You're at the wedding within 10 minutes of
Yeah.
this movie starting. And in the beginning, it's her with George, and they're sitting at the table, and they give all the exposition. He's gay. She's the food critic that's hard on people, that people respect. They're looking out of the kitchen, making sure that she likes their stuff, or else their restaurant is ruined.
Yeah.
There's the call. Oh, you remember Michael. He's the sports writer that I had a 1 month thing with that never actually happened. It was ridiculous.
Set up very conveniently, yes.
It's all conveniently set up, which I liked. That's a good movie.
Let's get into it, yeah.
Let's get into it. And then the whole premise is she's going to try and ruin this wedding. And then a third of the way in, she flies to Chicago, and George comes to Chicago too and goes, did you make this a prize? Do you even like him?
Right. Are you just doing it because he's not available anymore?
Right.
Yes.
And I thought that was the premise of the movie that was so smart that I had forgotten.
Yeah.
To me, that's like the adult premise of the movie. The child premise of the movie.
The whole time she's just doing this because she can't have what she always thought was available.
Right. And what did you relate to her in that at all?
I think there's definitely something to that. I think there's this feeling of like this, especially when you're younger, of like, this guy's too into me. And so like, I'm going to like, why would I want, this is like a little too easy. There's no like chase here. And she says they dated in college. So I definitely think that part is relatable, where maybe but it's funny.
But they didn't even date. They had
a hot month.
A hot month and one kiss, she references.
Oh, she's one kiss?
It was like one.
I thought they had sex. She said a hot month.
They're barely.
I don't think she said
really.
I don't think she said that they only had one kiss.
She
said she didn't remember the kiss.
They remembered one night. They both remember one hot night.
Oh no, I think that was like while they were friends, just hanging out over the years.
Right, and I thought that was like all it was. I thought it was like one hot night where they went a little bit farther than they ever had, and then they were like, this was weird.
I didn't get that from that. I didn't think that was clear. I thought it was like they had the hot month in college, and then they were just friends after that, but they have all these like sort of very intimate moments over the years that aren't sexual.
Right. No, that's how I felt about it too. Yeah.
I mean, their relationship completely inappropriate. You see that like for the whole time I was like not really sure if she was the villain or if he was the villain. Because he's like acting so inappropriately throughout the entire movie that you're kind of like, is this guy like a complete douchebag? Or is it like, I mean, do they almost deserve each other?
There's so much made of like Disney princesses ruining, making women feel like they should expect more than they should.
Is that a thing?
Like the Disney princess.
Oh, okay. That you're going to be chased and rescued and right.
Whatever. That these rom-coms over the years, we've heard the feedback to rom-coms that they give a false narrative. I think the biggest, problem with this movie for like societally, not to like, is they make him seem like he has no idea that she likes him at all.
Right, they're clearly like flirting the entire movie.
And he's like, they have like a whole date on the week of his wedding.
He talks about seeing her naked.
And he walks in on her naked and goes, "You look pretty good naked."
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Completely inappropriate. He puts his mouth around her finger to get the ring off.
Well, there's also a lot of kissing on the lips in this movie. Did you notice that?
Between
her and his dad?
Oh, yeah. Big kissing movie.
The amount of kissing on the lips that happens, like
it's pre-COVID.
This is the Cameron Diaz and her dad.
Yeah,
they have a kiss on the lips.
It's a lot of kissing. I think the best character is George.
Well, this is something I want to bring up.
Yeah.
Do you think the name of this movie is for George?
No, but that's an interesting.
George
thought.
is the one whose best friend is having a wedding.
Well, she's going to a wedding.
Right. My best friend's at a wedding.
It's his movie? You think he's the star?
I think it's his movie.
You think he's the star?
To me, George, I hope I am a friend to someone in the way George is a friend to Julia Roberts.
I think he is the best character in the movie. I thought of you the whole time when he like fucks with her when he flies in and then and she pretends that they're engaged and then he like creates this whole it sounded like a story you would tell. Like if I asked you to do this, it sounds like exactly how deep into it you would go.
He was unbelievable at every turn. Game. Shows up twice, flies to Chicago with a fear of flying 2 separate times.
I know.
And then totally sweeps 2 families off their feet with this story about that lunch at the fish hut.
The classic scene.
Yeah, and they sing that song at the table, which if you think about that song, that singing scene at the table where they're like, say a little prayer, is that what it is?
Say a little prayer for me.
Say a little prayer for you. In theory, you're like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
It made sense.
I actually think it's like one of the best movie like scenes of rom-coms like ever. I just think I totally agree with you. It's one of those things where like if someone told you about the scene, you'd be like, that sounds really dumb. But it's pulled off in a way that you kind of have to smile. If you're like not smiling when you're watching it, there's something wrong with you.
You have no soul. And it's very true. It's an extreme truth. But that uncomfortable lunch the week of a wedding, where the families are getting together, sitting at a long table, everyone's trying to meet someone, you're hoping someone's going to have like the fun story that doesn't get it too awkward.
We want to hear the story.
Right. And he's like saving this lunch because it does make sense that the whole place would be zoned in on them. Like, wait, we just found out you're engaged?
Trying
we had
to
no
pretend
idea.
not to be gay.
Right.
Dear sweet chocolate-covered Kimmy. Just the way he interacts with everyone. He's like screaming,
fantastic.
She's screaming. It's amazing.
Yeah, and then when he first comes in, and then again, that's another scene to make Julia Roberts look evil. She's now like made them engaged at their wedding as a surprise. Like that's like the worst thing you could do is like announce your engagement.
At someone else's wedding, yeah.
That's something she does.
Besides make out with the groom.
Make out with the groom. I mean, we can go down the list. She announces a fake engagement at their wedding weekend.
Yes.
She makes out with the groom. She sends an email.
That's obviously the worst thing that you could.
I'm watching that going, this is...
Lock her up.
Lock her up. This is horrible. She sends an email.
She tries to get Paul Giamatti fired. By smoking in the hallway.
Paul Giamatti, who's like her fairy godmother.
I know. Wow, was he not big at that time?
No.
That he's just playing the little
Paul
bellhop?
Giamatti, I think at some point was like character actor, like I just do movies, I'm that guy in movies. And then I think he got a few roles, or there must have been, I think the role that
he was great in this role.
He's great in this role, but like the wine role, the wine movie.
Sideways.
I think Sideways popped him off in a way. It's a great movie. And I think that made him like
We should do that movie.
A-list character.
Okay.
So
fantastic actor.
Right. There's such a thing as a character actor that
Right.
like you do these like small bit roles, but you nail them. Like he nails that
Killed it.
whole thing. And you're like, you look into his eyes, you're like, man, anyone going through a tough time would want this bellhop to be helping them through.
Yeah.
And
But I also think that's like a route. He's like, you can't smoke here. And she's like, well, take me away.
Right.
Like,
drag me off the floor.
Right.
Yeah, she's a monster. So she tries to get them to, she goes to the wedding specifically to break them up.
Yes.
She then makes out with the groom. She writes an email from the father's company email to his boss.
she breaks into his office, which is crazy.
Hey, can I use your computer to write some emails? Can you imagine? That's one of those that like didn't
Right.
age. Like you would be like, you could never have that plot point.
Yeah,
in
she did have
today's
to be like,
movie.
find a hacker or something.
Right.
This-
And but like it is funny that email back then was like such a like not personal thing.
right, where he's like, send out those emails in my like outbox.
To his assistant.
Right.
No one would say that to
No.
their assistant, I don't think.
Not
like
at all. No.
you would know better than
Why wouldn't
me.
you just send them?
Right.
Why would they just be like sitting there?
I got a few emails just sitting in my outbox.
Right.
Like it's not
I
an
didn't have to- I
actual
didn't have to-
outbox on your desk.
I didn't have time to press the button.
Right. That's how busy he is. Also, the idea that this company was this like family company that like that it's so weird the way the world of economics has gone. That like the
he
owner
owns the like White Sox.
he owns the White Sox, but it's part of his like big investment company, and he's like the fuddy-duddy dad who walks around his investment company. Like
Right.
nowadays, that would be like owned by a like
Private equity. Yeah.
faceless, nameless, no family that's around. Like people that work at Walmart don't see the Waltons walking around.
Right.
Like that's just such an old thing. This was also a great love letter to Chicago.
Yeah. Made
Summer
this
in
city
Chicago,
seem
they're
lovely.
beautiful, unbelievable. The train station, I didn't even know they had a train station in Chicago. Just the White Sox, you would never go to, like the fact that it was the White Sox and not the Cubs, like that's another thing.
Do they not play anymore?
They do. They
Okay.
it's just not the cool one that you would talk
Okay.
about. It's just the Cubs is like the downtown Wrigleyville look. This was like,
Right. And Julia Roberts is like one of the boys at the.
what did you think of that scene where she comes? So like
She comes in with the hot dogs.
with the
or
no, it
whatever.
was the beers.
Oh, the beers. Yeah.
Woman with a beer. This
her
was
crop
like
top,
in
yeah.
a crop top.
Yeah.
It was like such a Bud Light commercial. Like and twins. Like it
But
made
that's
me
not
think of that commercial.
that's not usually Julia Roberts' role. She's usually not like hot. Like
She was
she's
here.
like yeah. She looks great.
Yeah. I mean, do you understand the idea that it was George's movie?
I like that. I think he did. I think he is
My
the star.
best friend's wedding does make sense because my best friend's got a wedding this
And
weekend.
he ends it with her. They're dancing at the end. where
What
he
did you
stalks her
think of
and-
George as a friend?
Amazing friend.
Right.
I don't
Friend
think there was
Hall of
there
Fame.
could you could never ask her about it. He picks up her call when he's in the middle of the book reading. He pretends to be straight for her. Flies. Would you ever fly to a different state for anyone in need ever? He tries to reason with her that she's acting like a lunatic.
He tells her the end of the movie. That's another fun
Oh yeah,
thing.
she says, "What is he gonna say?"
He's going to go with Kim and you're going to send them off.
And the best part is when she's chasing him in the bread truck, and she's telling him, and he goes, "So, Kimmy's running. Michael's chasing Kimmy. You're chasing Michael. Who's chasing you? No one." Exactly.
Well, it is funny that this movie, the reason it's probably so popular and like what's so amazing about it is that it takes this fear that I think everyone has of like, I'm going to be the third wheel at a wedding where I'm in love with someone who's in love with someone else.
Yeah.
And it like plays it out, like.
What if you said something? Yeah.
What if you said something? What if you went to the wedding? What if you
Tried to destroy
it's
everyone's
funny that
lives.
it's like Julia Roberts, I have no fear for her future, but you could make that into this movie could be made into like, could she ever find someone after this? Like,
I think so. I can't believe she was forgiven so quickly. She's standing up there as the bridesmaid.
well, that's the most unbelievable part is that
Right. That she's like still invited. She's making a speech at the wedding. Also, I thought it was kind of passive aggressive that she gives them their song. It's like, why don't you let them have their own song?
This is how amazing Cameron Diaz was.
You made out with him earlier that day.
And now you can take my old song. And they leave their own wedding.
Oh yeah, that's a very 90s
that's
thing.
Crazy.
Yeah, no one leaves their own wedding.
Was that a thing at some point?
I think it was like you like send the couple off, like
and then
like
we dance without you there.
If I'm paying for a wedding, I'm staying the whole time. I'm not just leaving before dessert.
That's the weirdest part.
Yeah.
She's in a different outfit. She's in a pantsuit. They're like getting to the O'Hare.
Yeah, I don't know if that's because they have that in like Father of the Bride. Like
they
the send off. I don't know if that was actually a thing or if that's just like the trope of the wedding movie.
Maybe. I honestly I don't need that at the end.
Those cars with the just married sign, I think is like for that
they drive away to their honeymoon.
Yeah.
And maybe it was an old thing, but Cameron Diaz was like way more forgiving than I think anyone. Like, what do you think happens? This movie ends.
And also Cameron Diaz does look a little pathetic throughout the whole thing where she's basically just begging Michael to be with her no matter like how many, he's kind of like, I think like their relationship is a little weird. Like, I don't know if they have like, they are really cute at times, especially in like the karaoke situation.
The karaoke situation, so they go to karaoke and Julia Roberts knows that she's uncomfortable with karaoke, knows that it's like her and Michael's thing. And they got this big group. It's Chicago. Everyone's hanging out. And then she like forces the mic on Cameron Diaz.
Yes.
And Cameron gets up and literally there's people in the karaoke place yelling, "You suck."
I know.
And you're like, what world do they go? You suck. Like who would ever be at a karaoke place?
Sounds kind of Chicago.
I guess. It would never happen.
Right.
But then she starts singing and
she's so bad, she's good.
Well, that was the part where I was like, here's the relatable part to like this podcast and dating. And it's like this idea that like, who's winning? Like, how do you win dating? How do you be a good dater? How do you find a partner? And she even says it, Julia Roberts even says it's like her vulnerability. She talks about her, she's vulnerable and likable.
In an endearing way.
In an endearing way. And it's like, yeah, I think like the idea that like she's pathetic, like you could put that on her, but like she's there being like, I like this guy. And she even says it. They go over all the icks in the elevator.
Yeah.
They go over the icks. And it's like such a funny part that still stands today.
Yeah.
Because every ick becomes a quirk if you like them.
If you like them, yes.
And she's like, all those things are all things I deal with because I threw the notebook away and I like him for him. And I like that all these things are what make him not my guy. And it's like, you see that, and it's like, maybe that's the 20-year-old.
Yeah. And I think, again, I don't think she's like pathetic with it, but you see, it's almost more in her fights with Michael, where she's constantly just like it is crazy that she would be like dropping out of school to go follow him around, or that he would not feel bad about her doing that.
Well, it's crazy that that's their plan. Why can't it be? You're not on the road 365 days a year. Like at this point, like to be talking about this now to me was crazy.
I mean, it seems like it moved quite fast, so maybe they didn't get to all the. I don't know how they planned more wedding events than I've ever seen done at any point.
The timeline of this doesn't even make sense.
But why are you having a brunch the morning of the wedding? Everyone should be getting ready. What's going on? Shouldn't she be like in hair and makeup the entire day?
Also, when did George get there, leave, and come back again?
Yes.
Like, were there that, like that's a lot of flying in that day and age.
Yeah.
Like, and then like.
Don't you have a flight back? Canceled. Just everything about the way that he like acted was just so much fun. Well, he just added so much fun into the movie.
He was what the movie needed to ground it.
Right.
Because
voice of reason.
Right, because she's the whole time, she's like, you're going to break up a couple? Based off of someone you haven't spoken to,
right?
Seemingly, and
she was also years. She was also kind of getting anxious when she thought he was calling to try to marry her.
Right. She doesn't even.
She was like relieved once it wasn't, but only until she found out he was marrying someone else.
What's the relationship between Michael, Cameron Diaz, and Julia Roberts after the wedding? Do they speak ever again?
That's really a tough one. I think it would be a little weird for a while. I mean, the fact that it wasn't weird at the wedding is crazy to me, that like she would still be at the wedding. It's insane.
But you know what it was? They even say this, I think, at the end of the movie, like that was goodbye.
Yeah.
Like,
because I think I think that's the real lesson.
That's the real
right?
lesson, is like some of these relationships are not made to be had through the rest of your life. They were there to get you through certain times where you needed them. Like this idea that like we had this thing, the will they, won't they, and it's like you didn't. It's time to go.
It wasn't a real friendship. It had this underlying sexual undertone.
Right. And that he ignored and knew perfectly well what he was doing.
Right.
And that she acknowledged but put she
enjoyed the attention.
She enjoyed the attention, but also enjoyed the idea of like her own story being that I don't fall for nobody.
He adored me for 9 years.
Right. And it's like, and look at how strong I was to not fall, because I don't melt like that. I'm not one of those people.
Right.
And it's like, it is interesting that the end of this movie is like her and George kind of taking off where, taking her on where Michael leaves her off.
Right. He should really be her best friend.
Right.
There's not the weird underlying sexual tension there.
Fair. I don't know. If I'm George, I don't know how good a friend she is to him.
Yeah, it seems like he's always doing the heavy lifting there.
Right.
Yeah, I remember reading something about Rupert Everett, who is gay, and him like sort of saying that because like he's one of the few people who's like always been like out as gay.
Okay.
And that in his opinion, like he was given just way less roles. And he's like, that's why all the gay people in Hollywood are silently gay instead of coming out, because he's like, once I like came out as gay, they wouldn't cast me in any roles where I wasn't playing someone who was gay.
Interesting.
Besides Shrek, where he plays Prince Charming.
Okay.
The voice.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But that's a shame, because I think he's such a good actor.
He kills this movie.
Yeah.
Like he is, honestly, he's the in my best friend's wedding to me. Like I look at like the way he was to her.
Right.
And honest. He was honest with her. He was a real friend.
Yes.
Where in Michael wasn't a real friend.
Right. They were just like having fun out, like having a good time. Flirt. Again, I think they both enjoyed the attention of each other's like flirting without any of the consequence of a real relationship.
Right. Yeah. And it's like, do they even hang out anymore? I'm sure she's a call once in a while.
Send the Christmas card.
Maybe.
Happy birthday.
She doesn't even remember to do it.
I mean, if I were Cameron Diaz, I wouldn't be like inviting her over.
I mean, they have that fight in the bathroom of the baseball stadium.
Also a great scene.
Great scene. The women all hearing the story and being like...
Slut.
Like just immediately on Cameron Diaz's side. Like,
of course.
It was so funny to see.
It was great to see Cameron Diaz like get mad.
I mean, she's unbelievable in this movie too. Like, I think everyone's so good, but like it's
perfectly
funny,
cast.
perfectly cast, and also like her just being like, you came to my wedding, you made out with my fiance, you did all that, you got in the way of my life, and then all the women, and that's where this movie is like great.
At my parents' house.
At my right, and all the women are like the audience. They're just like, what? You're fucking crazy, bitch.
Right.
Like they're all screaming at Julia, who is saying the whole movie how crazy she's acting.
Right.
But still acting out on these things.
Still kind of defending herself, being like, well, you asked me to be your bridesmaids. You didn't even know me.
Right. And it's like, well, that wasn't an invitation for you to like come here and ruin my life.
It was weird that Kimmy had no friends.
No friends other than her two cousins who they call a slut.
Sluts.
The whole movie.
Yeah, they call themselves the what was it, the North Carolina
the
debutante
Nashville
sluts or something.
I mean, she was such a slut. They could have just said it and we would have believed them.
Who were just like mean to her the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we didn't need one of them sucking the dick of the ice sculpture. That was a little bit, like a little too much to me, but I get it. You have to have some gag humor.
I guess. Yeah, I didn't. I agree. I didn't think it was necessary for the movie, but it was funny. It was like she had the one bridesmaid who broke her hip and then couldn't show up. It's like, do you have any other friends?
Right.
You're in college. That should be like the time you have the most friends. You're in college and you're hot.
Yeah, it didn't make sense. That's the one thing I would have said to Michael. If I
Right.
were
Like,
her.
yeah, if I were trying to break them up, I'd be like, don't you think it's weird? She doesn't have any friends and she's like ready to drop out of college to just like follow you around
Yeah.
the country.
Isn't that crazy? And then he'd have to be like, well, she's a billionaire and I don't have to worry about anything ever again.
Yeah, I mean, you get the appeal on his end, but then it was also annoying that he was like pretending to be like above the corp.
He's rich, but
Right.
they're good
I'm
people.
not good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, yeah, I think he might be the biggest villain in this movie.
I agree because like technically he's the only one who really owes her anything.
Does he owe her anything?
Yeah, he owes Cameron Diaz something. He's engaged to her.
Yeah. No, he owes
So like
Cameron Diaz.
not be like looking at your friend naked or like.
He also needs her at the wedding. Like, to me, you could look at this wedding as being like him making sure one last shot to make sure that he doesn't still have something for Julia Roberts.
Right, his big expensive plan to
big expensive plan to like he's starting to get cold feet. He's begging her to come because he's like, I got to see her one last time to make sure this wasn't something more than I thought it was.
Right.
And then I got to ship off and go marry this woman and she'll take over my emotional
here's the other part.
crutch that Julia Roberts was before.
Do you think because he knew he could have her at the end, because he's like, okay, I got the validation, like she's into me. Now I can go marry
That's the most evil way to look at this movie.
I mean, he's like flirting with her the whole time. Finally,
Right.
she makes a move, which to me, if you think that comes out of nowhere, you're a lunatic.
No, it didn't come out of nowhere, but he basically set the trap. To me,
He asks her when he ends the wedding, when he says he's going to end the wedding, he asks her to like, let's go somewhere. Why would she not be like, why would she, it would be weird
Right.
for her not to make a move?
Right. Like, oh, he just invited me on vacation.
Right.
Of course
The proclaiming her love
and
the kissing him and proclaiming her love is almost the least crazy thing that she's done.
Right. The kiss made sense based on where and time and space. It is. He can't just sit there and go, yeah, she just went crazy at my wedding.
Right. No,
Like-
he was giving her mixed signals the entire time.
Right. And it's like, and referencing their past and how, we're just really good together. Like he never talks to her like a friend. I would never
Right.
talk to my friend in the tone that he even talks to her.
Not at all. The whole thing is like very flirty the entire
Right.
time.
And no one seems to even like put a finger on it.
Right.
Like,
Except
everyone's-
for the slutty sisters who
Right.
like said, "Oh, look, here it's Kimberly and the woman she'll never live up to."
Right. So they all knew the story on her
Right.
before she even got there.
Poor Kimmy.
Kimmy might be the most.
Pure.
Yeah. Well, she
Yeah.
does come off very pure, but maybe that's why they make her a college student.
I guess that makes sense. It makes sense. But she could have been 22 and been that pure.
Right.
She could have been like outright out of college.
Like she has no idea about the outside world at all. That's why it doesn't make sense that he's marrying her anyways, that they would even connect.
I guess. I mean,
Like
I
it
guess
does feel like he might be taking advantage
feels
of
like
her.
men might like that kind of like naivete. Like she's just like starry-eyed and like down for whatever and like fun and pretty and rich.
Is there
I get his appeal.
Is there an argument that she knew everything? That she played everybody? That Kimmy,
Knew this was gonna.
she was like, I need this woman here before we get married so that I can get her out of your life. You can see how crazy this person is and that I'm the right person for you.
I mean, that
She has
if
no
she's
friends.
she's the mastermind. That maybe that's why she has no friends. you know?
Right.
Maybe that's
No friends. Hey, bring in this
Kimmy.
Julianne.
In the end, she killed it.
And she won. She got her in a bread truck chasing after her.
She got her to break. She got her to send that crazy email. If
Right.
you can't, here's the thing: that email is a reason enough to say she's not invited over. She tried. She hacked into my dad's email account. I'm pretty sure that's like universally accepted. Like, oh, she can't come to Christmas. Oh, yeah, that happened. Okay, yeah,
Right.
fair.
So wait, Julianne, what's wrong with her? Yeah, she
Broke into
went
my
all-
dad's office
to
in the
try
middle
and
of
break
Chicago.
up Mom and I.
Yeah.
From getting married and being happy the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dating wise, if you were invited to your best friend's wedding,
My male best friend's wedding, and I realized I
could this happen?
think it could happen, not as like insane as this,
Right.
but I think you could like I think people get engaged and people are friendly or people are get into a serious relationship, and then that's the time that someone realizes that they're. I don't know if I feel like it usually wouldn't work out because it would be based on exactly what it was based on for Julia Roberts, which was like based on not being able to have the person. It's more about the game of it than the actual person. Because if she actually wanted to be with him, she could have been with him the whole time.
Right.
She broke up with him. But I think it's more this idea of like, okay, this person that I always kind of knew was this backup for me, that I like, that I've been getting all this attention from for all these years. Suddenly I'm not going to have that like backup attention.
Right. I think also it shows you the power of being broken up with and still flirting with someone.
Like him to her?
Him to her. Like he always had the blissful naivete.
He always thought maybe they'd...
No, he always just had like, I think she thought she was more in control of this than she ever was. Just because she said no to him once in college.
Right. She's like, and he's been obsessed with me ever since.
Right. Or maybe he just was like, liked having your attention and having a hot chick around while he was a good looking dude who could fuck a bunch of chicks.
And she's flirting with him.
Yeah. So like maybe he never had to like, you were never his responsibility and he got everything from you as far as like the fun of a girlfriend. And
I think the idea for Julia Roberts of like, okay, doesn't sound like she has a ton of friends besides
George.
So I could see the idea of her, like kind of like we said in the beginning, like her best friend is now getting married. Like, oh shit, am I left behind? Am I going to be like this again, like this person that I was kind of on the same wavelength. We both like just never with anyone serious. We're both kind of on this page. Now it's just me.
I'm alone.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the
I like
feeling.
that she smoked.
Big cig person.
Yeah.
I love the Drake Hotel.
Oh, is that where it was filmed?
Well, that's where they talk about the Drake Hotel. I don't even know if it's still there.
Okay.
Chicago looks unbelievable. Yeah. Just
and then he takes the cigarette and he puts it out. Those are bad for you.
Yeah, this was the beginning of bad for you cigarette time.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a really fun watch. Her family being way nicer than they had to be to everyone.
I could see that. I felt like that maybe was like realistic, like almost like people that you like they'd go out of their way to like prove the stereotype of rich people are rude wrong. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and the wedding, the idea that she came from New York, so she's crazy. Like, remember, she's chasing after the couple. She's from New York. And you're like, oh, okay.
Well, she's from New York, so she wears blazers and chases after people.
Well, this was fun to rehash. Is there any takeaways? Anything else?
Don't try to destroy. I like that because I think the movie could have gone the way of she usually these rom-coms end with like, and she gets the guy, and it didn't go that way. And I thought that was also like very important.
Was there ever a best friend's wedding too?
No,
thank
God.
Was there talks of it? Well, I would want to know. There is a room here. There's room here to be like. I am curious what her life becomes after this.
Yeah, I would see it.
I don't think we would ever hear from like him and her again.
They should do the same actors. They're in their 50s or 60s. I don't know.
Right. Well, I think they don't even need Cameron Diaz and Michael.
Just Julia Roberts?
Just Julia Roberts. She goes back to New York. It's her and George and her trying to date and find the one because she's realized she does want love in her life and she just witnessed it and saw her capacity for love was different than she thought it was.
Yes.
And then her kind of, to me, like, what's her next step? Like, who does she meet? Because Michael and Cameron Diaz, to me, they go to the suburbs. He takes the job with the big billionaire, Papa Warbucks.
Eventually, once it's his idea.
Right. And then they just disappear into boring suburbia.
Right. Okay.
Julia becomes, there's something else here.
What do you think if we had to modernize this, if they came out with this movie now, what would like Cameron Diaz's job be? What would Julia Roberts' job be? What would Michael's job be? Like how would you modernize this in a modern world?
Julia Roberts is a PR agent.
Okay. I was going to say she's a lawyer. She feels me like,
okay. I was thinking PR agent who's like, gets it all done. Like a pushy
like a
PR
Samantha
agent.
Jones-esque character.
Yes, like real Samantha Jones. He'd have to have a job that I think he works in social services.
Okay. Like he's a social worker?
He's a social worker. He has to have a job that like doesn't pay. I guess he works for the city in some way.
Okay.
Not political, but works for the city.
Okay.
Because he's got to be respected but not well paid.
I like that.
Cameron Diaz.
I think she's an influencer.
Yeah, you're right.
Right?
Influencer.
But like who's actually really nice in person. And like Julia Roberts is like stalking her profile, like ready to hate her. And she's actually like pretty cool.
And PR behind the camera, influencer in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So it's like the two sides, the yin and the yang of it. You know, like she gets the interviews, but you know, Cameron does the interviews, you know, on her own, doesn't even need a PR agent. Her following is so big because she's in this like, you know, billionaire Nepo baby posse.
Yes.
George I just love the way he played the part.
Yeah.
It was so much more subtle. Like it wasn't like, you know, he was gay, but it wasn't like this, like, he didn't.
He did it perfectly. He did it like, just like.
I think George, to me, could be the same guy in this, you know,
he could
now.
he could play the same role.
Yeah, like he's like, you know, he's
just like a whim. He just did it so like whimsically, but also with like real advice.
Right, he was a man.
Yeah, he reminded he reminded me of you, but like I just felt like when he was doing that thing where he was when he was like having fun with like fucking with everyone.
Yes,
it felt like you.
I love that scene so much when he had a whole
mental institution. Like that sounds like he described how like we met.
Yeah. When I was in the Elmo costume.
I was visiting Dionne Warwick in a mental institution.
Right.
And there she walked in, a vision.
I just loved how the family was like eating him up.
Yes.
And she was like, okay, enough already. And they're like, no, we like. That's also a very relatable thing to me. When you're from the Northeast and you go to the Midwest, so there's some Midwestern people who think Northeast people are like, what is this crazy guy that just showed up and he's crazy?
Wacky. Yeah.
Wackadoo. You know, like you do get, because I have family from the Midwest and sometimes you feel like they're just so like, who talks like this?
Right.
You know, like he kind of had that
yeah.
response.
And Kimmy just has this like contagious excitement. Like when she sees him and she's shrieking.
Hugging him right away.
She's like adorable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's a great movie. Yeah, I want more rom-coms. I mean, we should do another one with a new rom-com.
Yes. If you guys have thoughts on the next rom-com we should do, if you want us to review a rom-com of times past, we were also talking about maybe doing The Materialists.
The baby saw The Materialists, says it's not a rom-com.
Okay.
And that's why we should see it.
Is it a horror movie?
Apparently, it is like a tearjerker. Like, it is not what you think it's going to be.
But let's see.
I mean, you're the Julia Roberts.
I guess so. I don't do that mushy love stuff. All right. Well, let us know in the Spotify comments or the YouTube comments what you want us to review next. And we will see you next week.
Boom.